The Smith & Wesson M&P Compact versus the Taurus TX22. Let's check it out. When it comes to 22 pistols, a lot of times they can be finicky, they can have some problems, but one pistol that I've always depended on because it's been so reliable is the little Smith & Wesson M&P Compact 22. It's just a great little handgun. It mimics a lot of the M&P style of their bigger brothers, but it's a little smaller. In fact, it's about 15% smaller than your standard M&P size. But here recently, Taurus just released the TX22. And this is something that, honestly, I'm surprised that I'm comparing a Smith & Wesson to a Taurus. But guys, I'm telling you, this has been a phenomenal little handgun. But what's really big about the Taurus is that it holds 16+1, whereas the Smith & Wesson and most of your 22 pistols are holding 10+1. And I want to thank the guys over at GunProDeals for sending the Taurus TX22 for the initial review and for me to be able to do this comparison. Now guys, one of the biggest differences between these two pistols is the round capacity. I mean, we have 16+1, we have 10+1. And that in itself is a pretty big deal. But that doesn't matter if the Taurus isn't up to the quality of the Smith & Wesson. And just as important, the reliability. Alright guys, we want to go over some of the aspects of the pistol, some of the similarities, some of the differences. Of course, one of the biggest differences is magazine capacity with 10 rounds. And we'll go ahead and make sure the guns are unloaded. And of course with the Taurus, it's 16 rounds, which really makes this kind of steps outside of the norm for the 22s. And like I said, there's a lot of different choices out there. Just a lot of people were asking about a comparison between these two. Smith & Wesson has just made exceptional firearms for a long time. And then with the Taurus, this gun, in fact, we have shot this now, I'm not even sure how many rounds we put through it. We've put over 1,000 rounds through it already. I have had zero malfunctions. We've done some tests on a brand new weapons light that we were just doing, and we did 300 rounds with it. And then while comparing these two, and then with the full review of the Taurus. And so I've been very pleased with this handgun, and one of the reasons why I wanted to go ahead and do this review. Now, of course, one of the big differences beside magazine capacity is the magazines themselves. I mean, this is a nice stainless steel magazine, good high quality, which Smith & Wesson is known for. Then we have this plastic, kind of a, polymer type plastic molding, and then with a polymer base plate. But we have 16 rounds and we have 10 rounds. And I talked a little bit about this during the review of the Taurus, but when you start getting these rims, they start to bow out. And so the magazine has to be set to where these can actually fit in the magazine. And because of that, it's single stack and then it's just 10 rounds. But with the Taurus, the way they've lined it up and the way they've designed the magazine, it allows for 16 rounds, which is huge. And the reason why you don't see more than 10 rounds typically in a 22 is because of this rim. So this is something that Taurus has done that really kind of steps outside of the normal designs. Both of them have polymer frames and both of them have aluminum slides. Now we have an anodized finish on the Taurus, which is very well done. But then on the Smith & Wesson, we have a really nice armorite finish or armonite finish on here. And so to me, the finish on the Smith & Wesson is superior as far as the actual coating. As far as durability, that remains to be seen. One thing we do have is a little bit of nicks right here at the ejection port. And two, you'll notice that the ejection ports are very different. We have it just on the side here, but then on the Smith & Wesson, it's just that traditional M&P style. And that's one of the things about the M&P Compact, is that it is based on the M&P models. Now they do make a full size, but this is their compact. And so this would go well with, you know, your Shield or even the Smith & Wesson Compact, to be able to kind of, you know, train with the 22, and yet all the controls are the same, everything is alike, but you're shooting much cheaper. And there's a lot of advantages to 22, which, you know, in fact, we did a Facebook Live just the other day where we talked about, is 22 really a viable trainer? And yes, it is. You know, you get a lower report, you get less muzzle flash, you get much less recoil, and it is cheaper to shoot, so you're able to put a lot more rounds through it and concentrate on trigger control, sight alignment, those kind of things. And so to me, having a good 22, it definitely has its advantages. Now the texturing on the grip with the Smith & Wesson, it has the original M&P type finish, which is not very aggressive. Now it's fine, especially with 22. With the Taurus, we're getting a little more texturing. It gives you a little more bite in the hand, but it's not uncomfortable. And I really like this grip angle. To me, honestly, the Taurus is more like a full-size pistol in size. But it's kind of funny because it's not a lot of difference than the M&P Compact. Now with the beaver tail lined up right here, there's about a 1/4 of an inch difference. Now you do have your threaded barrel that comes out, but the Taurus also has a threaded barrel adapter. Then here at the grip, we have a little bit of an extension, but it is 16 rounds. But one thing that's definitely different is the grip width. Very narrow, very small, honestly very similar to the Shield. Then here we have a thicker, more full-size grip. And so while you're shooting the Taurus, you feel like it's a surrogate for a full-size firearm, whereas the M&P Compact is more of a 22, and you feel like you have a 22 in your hand. Now again, they do make the full-size Smith & Wesson M&P 22, and it mimics the standard M&P line. Here are the rear sights, windage right here on the sides, and then elevation at the top. And of course, same thing here, we have elevation, and then you can drift the front sight for windage. As far as the sight dots go, it's larger on the M&P. I like the sights a little better. I think they show up better, they're easier to see. As far as the actual grip of the handgun, the Taurus feels your hand, but the Smith & Wesson does feel good. Guys, I'll tell you, this little Smith & Wesson has been my go-to for doing different things that I need to do with 22. If there's something that I need to bring out and show with 22, I usually grab the Smith & Wesson. The Taurus, though, now, because of just the size and the extra magazine capacity, I'm afraid it's going to replace it, because it just makes it nice. When you've just got 10 rounds, it doesn't take long to finish those off and then have to reload a magazine. And so with the 16 rounds, it just gives me more advantage that way. Also, we have front cocking serrations on the Taurus that we do not have on the Smith & Wesson M&P. And the accessory rails, while the Smith & Wesson does have 3 slots, it is still small. So there are some weapons lights that won't fit on the M&P Compact. But yet on the Taurus, it only has 2, but it's long enough to fit about any type light or laser that you have. And the trigger guard on the Taurus is larger for gloved hands. There's a number of safeties that are on these pistols. They have a manual safety here. They have trigger safeties on both. The Smith & Wesson has a magazine disconnect safety, so with the magazine out, there's no action to the trigger. One other thing that Smith & Wesson does that I don't really care for is that they have one of the locks that you can lock right here. And you put a little key in here, you turn it, and it actually forces the safety to be in the up position. And so you flip it, and then you can use it again. You know, some people like that. I'm just not a big fan. Now, they're both threaded barrels. And of course, you can see here, we've got our thread protector right here on the outside of the barrel. One of the things, though, about the Smith & Wesson is that the adapter that fits on the barrel is very difficult to remove. In fact, I broke the wrench, and I've read quite a few things online to where they actually had to take a pair of pliers and break this open. And so I think some of the newer ones, they've actually fixed that. But I have not gotten this off, and you know, and you've got to get it off to break the pistol down. But I just haven't wanted to bugger it up yet, but I'm going to have to. But anyway, the thread protector itself slips on very well, but the adapter is a little tough. When it comes to the Taurus, you can see we do have a thread protector right here, so we do have a threaded barrel, and the adapter is also included. I was going to break both pistols down and show you the differences, but because we can't remove the adapter, that's just not going to be possible with the Smith & Wesson. The Taurus does have a trigger safety, and you've got to really mean to hit that trigger. It is a pivot style, and this trigger is excellent. As far as trigger action goes, we bring it to about right here with a wall. There's a little bit of resistance as you're bringing it, and then a very nice crisp break. Reset right there. I mean, it is really fast. This trigger is excellent. When it comes to the Smith & Wesson trigger, we have the pivot style. You can see the little guard right here. We have some take up. I have a little bit of a hump right here, a little bit of grittiness, but a nice crisp break. And reset. There it is. A little bit farther than Taurus, but not too much. And then a nice break. Honestly, between the two, I think the Taurus is a better trigger. I want to thank CCI for sending the mini mags. Mini mags are, to me, some of the most reliable 22 out on the market. When it comes to the range, both pistols are very reliable. I've had the Smith & Wesson M&P for a long time, and I've shot a lot of rounds through this handgun. And it just functions. And it's one of the reasons why I use this for a lot of my testing if I need a good 22 pistol, because I know it's going to function. But with the Taurus, and during the initial review, during some other stuff that we've done with this handgun, and we put over 1,000 rounds through it, we've had no malfunctions. So both pistols, again, have just been super reliable. But when it comes to actually shooting the guns, the Taurus being a little larger gives you a little more confidence, the grip's a little more aggressive, and I just felt like I was able to keep control of the pistol, especially shooting rapid fire. And that was really where I noticed it. Just shooting, just straight up toward a target, both of them were fine. The thinness of the M&P though, just makes it feel like you're shooting a smaller handgun, whereas the Taurus makes you feel like you're shooting a full-size handgun. And there's definitely a difference when you put them side by side. But really, it's just really funny because they both weigh the same. So I have to just kind of attribute that to the size difference. Thickness of the grip, a little bit longer sight radius, and it's just an excellent shooting gun. But both of them have performed well at the range every time I've taken them. Weight on the Taurus TX22, 17.4 ounces. Weight on the Smith & Wesson M&P Compact, 17.4 ounces. So both of these guns weigh exactly the same. Now, as far as price goes, the Taurus is running around the $300 range on GunProDeals website. It's $299.95. The Smith & Wesson M&P Compact is running $331.80. So that just gives you an idea of the price difference. So about a $30 difference between the two. Now when it comes to pros and cons of the pistol, the Smith & Wesson definitely has that legendary Smith & Wesson reputation. I mean, they've been making firearms for over 100 years. And, they're just known for good quality, good, solid firearms. When it comes to Taurus, sometimes in the past, they have had their issues. But I think lately, any of the Tauruses that I've handled have been just excellent. And so I really think that Taurus is really taking a step forward. And these are made in Miami, which, and of course the Smith & Wessons are made in the U.S. and have been made in the U.S. for a long time. So both pistols, though, have just performed well. But I think that Smith & Wesson gets a little bit more confidence because it is again Smith & Wesson. 16+1 is a huge advantage for the Taurus, whereas you have your standard 10+1 with the Smith & Wesson. So both have threaded barrel adapters, so you can go straight to a suppressor or a compensator if you want. That makes it nice. Obviously the Smith & Wesson, getting that thread protector off and that adapter off is somewhat of a chore. So that's kind of a downside for the Smith & Wesson. From what I understand, some of the newer models have been easier. I really like the finish on the Smith & Wesson a little better. I feel like it's nicer. I like the grip better on the Taurus. Really, when it comes down to it, guys, both of these pistols are excellent. I think that it's just a matter of preference. The big plus, again, for the Taurus is the 16+1. And I think that's a huge plus. So really, it's just kind of up to your preference. Or maybe you want the Walther or the Ruger or a number of other ones. There's a lot of good ones out there. And again, I want to thank GunProDeals for sending the Taurus TX22 and the Smith & Wesson M&P Compact 22 is available on their website. And I really appreciate their support. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Both are highly, it's really easy to do. What up? And it is some kind of thermo-molded